Okay, good evening. It's now 7 on the dot. Welcome to the Monday, April 15th Snoqualmie Parks and Events Commission meeting. I'm Chair Emily Anderson. Today's meeting is being recorded and will be available on the city's website. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Let's do a roll call.
Paul
Paul,
Swam.
Great. And Scott? Okay, the three of us make a quorum, which is great. And then we have a lot of staff present. Would you guys like to quickly introduce yourselves too?
Nicole Levy, Community Liaison.
Jeff Hamlin, Parks and Public Works Director. Mike Shambles, former Parks and Public Works Director.
Dylan Gamble, CIP Manager.
No, Councilmember Benson.
He came to the other game.
Okay, do we have any new public comments? Was anything submitted in writing since our last meeting? Jeff or Gina?
I haven't received anything.
Okay.
I have a public comment if nobody else does.
What's that? You do have a public comment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
In lieu of the fire that occurred, I just wanted to thank Officer Corey Hendricks. I knew someone could just say he was just doing his job, but there's different levels of doing your job. And this was somebody who had the awareness to stop and investigate and likely prevented something much worse from occurring. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, we now move on to our first item of regular business, which is to approve the agenda. Do I have anybody who would like to get in order to? Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Thanks, you two. There's no Ethan Benson, right? No council liaison report tonight?
No.
Okay, so we move on to the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on March 18th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting?
I move to approve the minutes from that meeting.
Thanks, Paul.
Second.
Okay, great. Thanks, you two. Okay, on to our regular business. The first thing on tonight's agenda is a Parks and Events Commission discussion.
That's me.
Great. I'm like, what does that entail? Let's talk about that.
That entail? Well, there's handouts that I can't give you guys.
Okay.
But so I can give them to you. Here. The best part. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Chapter 2.8 of the Municipal Code, but that is where this commission lives in the book of rules. And in particular, your section 2.8.0 or 0.04, that section hasn't been updated since 1970. A lot of things have happened since 1970. Most of us were born and got us to today. So the gist of it is the language in there is no longer meets the needs of this city, no longer meets the legal requirements that the country has evolved into. So it is in the process of being updated. I handed out the update that is on the council. There's a second reading at the next council meeting to update this. And effectively it removes a lot of that section because there is a Parks and Public Works Department. There is a Parks and Public Works Director. No longer is PEC hiring the parks staff and supervising the parks staff through the mayor. So what and I'm not looking for information tonight because I know I'm ambushing you all, but the task before us is to look at this and then determine where we go from here with this commission. Really, we're kind of duplicating work a lot with this commission as with the Parks and Public Works Committee. And I don't think that's what any of us want to do. So what I'm challenging you to do, because I will be at your next meeting, is to reimagine how this commission provides input, work, etc. I think in the past, it played a much bigger role in developing the park system the way it was. I mean, back when the Ridge was building, we were building a new playground, once a month to get as many playgrounds as we have. And there was a lot of work for the Parks Commission meeting, for the Parks Commission back then. Now we do a playground every 2 years. So do we need to meet monthly? Do we need to meet quarterly? Do we need to meet, twice a year? What is the meeting frequency that we need? What work are we going to do? Those are the questions that I'm going to ask you to think about in the next 30 days. And then when we get back together, we'll talk and then we'll figure out where we're going to go.
Can I provide comment now?
Sure.
So my understanding of the Parks and Public Works Committee, are consistent of elected people and employees of the city. Whereas our commission, we're volunteers tasked with bringing the voice of the community in. Is there an opportunity where we might combine the two?
I did bring that up with the committee, and it was not, it didn't immediately receive favor, but I wouldn't say it's dead. That is one of the paths forward that I brainstormed, is maybe there are commissioner advisors on that committee to provide input, etc. I don't know, but yeah, we need to look at everything. I'm not going to rule anything else.
To give you an example of parks, if I look at the broader scope of our commission, we look at open space, we look at our trail system, which there are certainly improvements that could happen there. Okay.
Correct.
I think you guys have to figure out what your function is, right? There's gotta be a reason for having PEC, right? What is that reason? Because I think there's a lot of folks around here who don't understand why we even have a PEC and what you guys do, right? So it needs to be defined.
Well, a lot of that starts with the mission statement. And we revised the mission statement within the last couple of days. So that factors in as far as our guide on what we are about.
But I think we need to make sure the mission statement parallels the new 2.8. Or we need to amend 2.8 to match the mission statement if the mayor agrees.
Is this something that all the commissions are being tasked and asked to do? Is it just for us?
There are changes hitting just about every commission. Some more drastically than others. One of the most drastic actually is the Civil Service Commission. Once we got digging into that, we figured out that we've been doing it all wrong. So that is totally changing. Let's follow the law. Imagine that.
And then just to be clear, the three of us, the three commissioners, are not allowed to meet as a threesome to brainstorm, because that would equal quorum, right? We'd each have to come up with something independently.
Yep, on your own.
Yep, okay.
We can work at the next meeting.
Right, collaborate with our ideas at the next meeting.
Okay.
Correct.
Which brings us, just a side note, to our next meeting, because I know at least one commissioner has already asked to be excused from that meeting. It's not able to make it. So it's my understanding that we don't have any new commissioners starting yet. So we probably will not be having a meeting in May. Is that right, Dina?
Well, that's the way it sits today.
Okay.
I won't be quorum.
If you want to send me an email, make an appointment to meet with me individually, that's fine too.
Oh.
Okay,
You don't have to wait till the meeting.
I'm curious, why the sense of urgency, 30 days?
I just want to get stuff done. There's no push.
Okay,
So Mike, is that your preference if we aren't meeting as a commission, because we won't have quorum in May? Would we then try to meet with you earlier? Or can we wait? Can this wait till June? What does that look like?
Whatever works for you, whatever your preference is. If you want to meet 2 or 3 times and brainstorm, I'll make myself available.
Okay. I think this is
Mike-
exciting. It's a good challenge.
sorry, I have a question. So the handout that you're giving us there, Mike, is that are the code changes, the municipal code changes echoed in that? So that we
Yes.
can so that can advise us to make some intelligent assessments.
Correct.
Okay,
I'll make sure that somebody emails them to you.
That'd be great.
Do we know when
Yes.
the code changes go into effect?
That reading is at the
Monday.
Monday's council.
And they'll vote on it Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll be in effect by Monday.
Yeah, Paul, you should read the ordinance form, I think that's what Paul's asking for. Yeah, you should read the ordinance form because it will actually show the changes that are taking place, whereas the one that got handed out is what it would look like at adoption.
Yeah, but I simplified it because
It makes it
just so you know, the ordinance involves
All of them.
the entire municipal code. So you really gotta narrow it down to find it. So I simplified it by breaking you guys out of that for you.
Paul's a planner, he
Paul can handle it.
This is.
I have a feeling that's what you wanted.
Yeah, to me, it just
Sorry.
started,
This is the update.
This is the update.
Hey, Paul. I'm so
Yes.
sorry. When you're not speaking, do you mind muting? Just because I hear mostly wind,
sure.
and I'm wondering if that would help me hear a little better. Thank you.
no, I was simply gonna comment on a few things. It seems contrary. So our goal is to encourage public input. So it seems contrary to look at eliminating a commission that I think we've worked hard over the last year to try to be involved in decisions and not just come in at the end. For example, the post plan, we've definitely been, let us give counsel on that. Let us be a part of it. The expansion of the community center, let us be a part of that. Let's talk about what we can do to help. The basketball court, we'll talk about that. Being part of the open houses, we've been a part of that, but it just seems contrary to look at, well, prove yourself, otherwise we may not need to continue. It's just what I'm hearing. With this, the second piece is, if we are going to be a viable commission, the 2-year terms and the expiration of 3 commissioner terms on the same date every other year just seems by design flawed. Because if all 3 commissioners were to leave at the same time, we immediately don't have a quorum. So I would encourage the council to look at that and go to a 3-year term so that at least we can have more stability.
Understand?
I concur.
So if I may speak, so it's a bigger picture really than just PEC.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have a whole list of commissions and they all stagger and it's really hard to track them and keep. And so when we can group them together and advertise as a whole, it's just gonna be easier to meet those deadlines because we miss them here. There's just too many. There's too many positions. There's too many varying expiration dates all throughout the year. And so it's really just more of an administrative decision to try to manage all of them out differently than the way we have been. So it's not really necessarily, focused on this commission, it's all of them.
And that's also time to coincide with political terms of the elected officials that are appointing them. Rarely in many organizations do appointed positions extend beyond the tenure of the elected people they appoint you. Sometimes they'll extend 1 or 2 months in a very large organization to give them time to line up their new appointees. And so the work doesn't just stop, but oftentimes, so having 3 expire 1 year and 2 on the other on a 2-year cycle accomplishes that fact. But I please don't misunderstand what I'm saying is that we're considering getting rid of PEC. What I'm saying is we need to define PEC going forward and how this is going to work, because how it was conceived back in 1970 when the code was written, life does not work that way anymore. You know, to get I mean, it's talking about how the old PEC was authorized to get involved in grant applications and such. And quite frankly, it's very difficult for my staff to put out a grant application without the mayor's signature on it or my signature on it, notarized. It's just the way the world is working now compared to 50 years ago. It's evolved.
And also Snoqualmie's evolved.
Our mission needs to evolve. I agree, there's a lot of work in the trails. I agree, there's still work in the parks. The pros plan is a perfect project. The community center expansion, we absolutely needed input and everything else. This is not an attempt to shut down public comment. But if this meeting is just us repeating what we're telling Parks and Public Works Committee 90% of the time, then maybe we need to examine having fewer meetings so that it's more informative and a better use of everybody's time, because there's a lot of money sitting around this table every night. And we need to spend it appropriately.
Mike, do you feel like we have been topic repetitive?
In the past, when I was in Jeff's position, I questioned some of the things that we spent a lot of time on internally. They're fully within our right to work on, fully within the council to work on. But when I think of the overall mission of the group to have that many meetings on one topic, probably could have been better use of time. I know often the meetings consisted of me showing up and just giving updates on where projects were, and that was it, because we didn't have anything to work on. We didn't have the pros plan. We didn't have a park to build or anything else. Obviously, when we did Riverview, you were an integral part of Riverview. Quite frankly, PEC is the one that got Riverview across the board. That is the ideal project for PEC in my mind, but we just don't do that every year or every month or every. So I personally think
fair enough.
Fewer meetings that are more informative and better use of time, better use of my staff time, I think is the right mix. I don't think getting rid of PEC going forward is necessarily, unless we fail to define it and define a role.
No, makes sense. And the clarification, I'm not, the expiration of terms on December 31st, I'm not questioning that. The 2-year term though, that actually creates, I think, more work because it's cycling faster. So a 3-year term, I think, is a better balance.
I think four-year terms it's a big commitment
Yeah,
for people.
agreed.
And so 2-year is like, it's a bite of what it could be. And then the opportunity to be reappointed if they're still interested. So then we get them for another 2 years, right? So, but then the people can decide if they want to.
Well, and I think there was a point made in a prior meeting about the term length, that 3 years, because of some of the complex projects that we work on, the 3-year term allows someone to kind of get their footing in the first year and kind of learn the ropes a bit. Yeah, I don't remember who made that comment, but that sort of hit home with me. But no, thanks for answering that question, Mike, because I've wondered myself if we've had some moments where topics have been a little bit repetitive in the past. What the word that speaks to me that we can go home and ruminate over when we think about this before our next meeting is balance, finding a sense of balance. So that's my 2 cents.
Like I said, I'm available to meet with anybody, if you wanna set something up, so. My best days for availability are Thursdays, but I'll make whatever I can work.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, Mike, I for one appreciate you coming forward and presenting this to us and putting it in our hands. I like the word balance, but I also like the word purpose. And I want to make sure that we are serving our purpose and that it is purposeful, right? That we can have a lot of Riverview Park success stories. And maybe relooking at all this is a good idea. So we can be more succinct with that.
Well said.
Next up. Oh, Sheriff.
Jeff wants to
Hold
run.
on here. Yeah. You're right.
I was looking at, I'm taking time, so we're 20 minutes in already.
Jeff's ready to move on. We'll move on. Okay, pros plan discussion.
Yes, mind if I jump right in?
Go for it. Please do.
I have a lot of materials and I don't intend to just run it through like some sort of slideshow. So let me make sure I can screen share.
Run it through and read off every slide.
I'm gonna read every word.
Drain.
Have a nice night, I've been up since 3 AM.
Yeah, I've been up since 4, yawning.
I've been up since 4:30.
Yeah.
Alright.
Well, fresh,
Well, I'm out of
thank
here.
you.
Okay, I don't know if this is an insult that I'm that bad a presenter, it's that boring material or. What is it here?
Going on 18 hours of being away.
Yeah, come on.
Whatever the math
Take it
is.
easy. Okay. Can everyone see my screen share?
It's a beautiful picture.
Okay, so I wanna
It is
just
actually.
It's very calming.
kick off with, I said that I was going to bring 2 things to this meeting. One is an inventory, which is what you see here. And the other one is a stakeholder kind of assessment, the outreach results. So I'm gonna start us over here with the not as exciting one, because I know that's what everyone's instincts are gonna go. There's 2 notes that I have for both of these, and I actually have a third document, which is about walkability of trails that I added to this to meet some GMA requirements, so no sneak peeks, but the intent here is to kind of walk you through what we have here. But I want you all to know that the reason I didn't send this out is because I have already given them edits to make on this document. So it's not fully there yet, and I didn't want something kicking around that I'm about to change up right on you anyway. But what I want to show you is, so we've talked about this so many times, but we have that. You know, we have our current plan, our current Parks and Open Space plan, this is called. We're working on the update to that, and to do that, we do an assessment of all of our equipment. And so this is a huge list of every single park. And trail facility and a quality and condition statement that attaches to each of those. So let me scroll down to an example park. You can see here. There's lots of material in here, but I want to show you kind of what it looks like in general, because a lot of this is gonna be very similar to what's in the previous Parks and Open Space plan. It's not new, you know, we don't have lots of new space. We didn't, you know, annex new sections of town that now have parks in it that we didn't have before. That all is mostly the same. What has changed is this kind of condition, the age, the assessment, and what comes next pairs with this. So a lot of this is gonna be a bit like getting a home inspection or something like that. It's gonna say, you know, you got this many benches, dog stations, picnic tables, equipment, this is the type of facility. And it gives us all these lists, so that way I know how many parks do we have that have this type of fall protection surface area, right? So I have turf areas versus this is the tiles, the kind of protection tiles. And it gives us a grade on how well we're doing, and this is kind of a standard that's used across the state, not just. To our other local cities, there's not just Issaquah, Sammamish, North Bend, Snoqualmie condition assessment, but rather a larger, it's thinking, not just very regional, so. One or two of the big main takeaways from this is that we have pretty good parks facilities, generally speaking, we have good equipment. That's not a shocker, given that the ridge would represent, some 30 or more of the parks of the 42 or so parks that we have. And the ridge hasn't been around for very long, so we have a lot of parks that were built within the last 25 years or so. And they have a kind of, varied amount of condition, but generally speaking, metal equipment that's powder coated. Plastics that are UV protected, they last a while. The things that we see in decay are, it calls it out at the top, and I will be sharing a copy of this with you after this meeting. I just wanted to primer you all that I'm gonna be changing things, so. Some key takeaways are that trash receptacles seem to be wearing a lot. Benches seem to be wearing a lot. Some trails and surfacing stuff, especially in these kinds of parks, seem to be surfacing a lot. And this isn't news to us. In fact, I'm in a daily discussion, I feel like, about trash cans and park benches right now because of Centennial and how many we're replacing there and how much do park benches cost and which style do we want, and there's a lot going on to that. So it's not a shocker. That's kind of built into, our understanding. There are some inaccuracies in my opinion that I have asked them to make changes to. A couple of examples are that they ranked some equipment as safer than I think it is. And that's based on our park staff feedback that they gave me saying, this play equipment here at such and such park. They ranked it as a 3 as, good condition. I don't think it is. I think we gotta be replacing it because there's some safety concerns that they brought up. So I'm gonna override the condition report a bit. But generally speaking, this is kind of one of the first products that we received from this consultant. Obviously, we've done the workshops and yada yada, but here's a big list of all the infrastructure with pictures and condition assessments in alphabetical order that we can kind of use to compile, and that shows us the next step. So before I jump to the next document, do you guys have any questions? Want me to scroll anything specific? There's really good photos in here. They happen to be cruising around on like these really glorious days. And so they took some like really great photos of our parks. So if for whatever reason you needed a picture of the park, you can kind of see, but I think they did a good job of capturing some of the things that we want to look towards fixing now. And so that's caught in the assessment report. So that's gonna be part of it. I'm gonna move forward to what I believe is the thing you all want to see the most, which
Wait,
is,
I have a question on that, Dylan, sorry.
yeah, Kimmy.
So first of all, yes, kudos to them for hitting like the 1 week where we actually have beautiful fall leaves, right, before they blow away.
Yep.
This is awesome. This is such a cool way of looking at it, and it's so streamlined. It's really nice to like view it this way.
Yeah.
Is this where there's any conversation about potential repurposing of these parks, or will that come later? Like I think of like the desire for a dog park and like converting a park like this into something like that.
This represents a bit of that rationale. So I think I know where you're going, and you see this and you see it as a tool to make an argument that something should be changed, and that's what this is supposed to do.
Okay.
This is supposed to just give us an understanding of where we're at, what the things we own, how they're doing. And so if we want to make changes, that's a bit of either our opportunity cost or just our straight up opportunity.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what this is supposed to represent. So
Yeah.
if we see that a park is in disrepair and we want to change it to something else, well, then we're not losing a brand new park. Would be shown out by the data that we've collected now.
All plans start with an assessment of the conditions of your existing infrastructure.
Great.
That's what we're looking at.
So I think what I'm gonna guess the next step that you would want to take this in, thinking this through, and this is the kind of summation of that outreach portion. So I could go back and show you the cool map where you could put pins into locations and say, I'd really like to see a whatever here, or this is a great thing and I love it. I'm positive you have all seen that and had an opportunity to check it out. That plus the 2 open house meetings. There's also a couple other survey details on the website that kind of pair it up. All that got collected up, ended up here. I know last time I said 300, I have no idea what I was talking about. I must have been combining things in my head, but we had 137 respondents in total. A bunch of the a bunch of the details on that map, they're not so easy to just like bring into a document like this and show cool charts. So like somebody's saying, why doesn't someone pick up my trash here, and can we create this trail through this private landowner? It's hard for me to bring that kind of material to a chart. So we've kind of eliminated some of these outlier details to try to show kind of some big targets, so to speak, in what our data is showing in generalities. And at the end of this, we'll have an appendix that shows everything, every comment, every opinion, every thought. And there's a few things missing from this, which is a couple council member stakeholder feedback. So that's why I haven't shared it out yet as well. But I wanted to kind of give you a rundown. It's just a 14-pager. I'm not going to read it out the whole thing, but kind of indicate what's going on here. So you can see we have a few people who weren't Snoqualmie residents. Why they're taking our report, I'm not sure, but there's different reasons I'm positive of it. Here you can see kind of like geographically where people are voting from. I would say not surprising in terms of the balance. That is generally how our city's population densities are laid out. We have about, just shy of 15,000 people. I think 12,000 live on the ridge. So this makes sense to me. Again, I don't know why 17 people took the.
Well, the water service area has 15,000 people, so those are people who live around the edges of the city limits, but not
could be.
in the city.
Yeah. It could be wider than that.
Could be wider.
Yeah.
Certainly wider.
Yeah, but it could be people who found it from the water utility, yeah. Or just stumbled on our website and was like, hey, I like this thing, I'm doing it, so you get that. Here we have a question about having like your participation in the city's, programs and activities related to parks and events and in the area. Overwhelmingly, we see yes. I don't think that's a big surprise to a lot of people. There's a lot of good parks in the ridge, and I think that it's captured here. Nicole does a lot of good events, that's captured here. It's gonna get more complicated as we go, so I'm gonna start leaving a little more room for everyone to ask questions and talk about it. But this one here is about rating, the quality of them. Again, we see pretty consistent to that inventory, a lot of good stuff. And then we kind of trickle down from there, and we don't really give, there's not a lot of heavy criticism here. We're not seeing a ton of everything sucks, right? We're not seeing a lot of that navy, or not navy, but dark blue, so the poor condition, yeah. So, yeah. And this one's getting a little more complicated. What are the reasons you've not participated or are not going to participate in Snoqualmie parks and recreation events in the future? So this is quite a list, and this is shown in the same order that the questionnaire was displayed in. So it might be a little confusing. You're thinking like, why isn't the 39% at the tippy top? But this is how it was laid out in the questionnaire. So, yeah, go ahead if you.
So was the WISE programming part of this survey?
The Y is not part of the city.
Okay.
Yeah, so the WISE programming is, here's one of those things. A lot of people who take this survey and a lot of people that live in the city don't know that there's a distinction sometimes. A lot of people who think that the city does own the community center, and they think that maybe we hire the Y, or they don't really know what that relationship looks like. So there's gonna be a lot of variability on how someone could have interpreted this question.
It just stuck out at me, 39%, I don't know what's offered, so.
There's a slide in here that is gonna showcase some other stuff.
Okay,
I think it's
okay,
pretty
just
interesting.
because the Y is the recreation arm to the city of Snoqualmie, but it's just making me wonder if people.
Yeah, well, it's not technically the recreational arm. We can easily run our own rec department. There's nothing stopping us from it. Just have it,
That's how
Their
it,
activity is focused on the community center.
yeah, all within their own building and structure.
okay, that was just the way it's been explained to me, and just coming from a background of Parks and Rec, that's.
Yeah.
What we have to offer the
Yeah.
community, so
I'd say we
I
just don't have a
really need to
traditional,
disconnect it. No, we
Yeah.
don't have it, it's different, yeah,
sure.
sorry, not trying to.
No worries. Skipping over here, this is a need, desires here for in your household, so does anyone in your household have these requests, wants, uses? We see kind of a wide range of things here. In my opinion, this chart is a bit loud, right? But I think you can kind of hit the highlights. You can see the top, adult sports. So I'm thinking, after work, soccer games, things of that nature. Learning to swim programs necessitate pools, generally speaking, and that's a big conversation in our community right now. You can see outdoor fitness programs, that's kind of similar, and youth sports, that's camps, clinics, leagues, so things like all the soccer teams and things like that the city supports via rentals and rental spaces. So that's a lot of the big hitters, but there's all sorts of stuff in here. Some of the lower ones, intergenerational programs, apparently not exciting, senior programs not hitting the mark. You can read this materials in lots of ways if you choose to nitpick it a little, you can go deep if you want. I wouldn't read into this as some sort of like, people don't like senior programs in this town, they won't stand for it. But rather, when they think about what desires they really have, this is what comes to the front. Skipping over to the next one, this is kind of pairing that up, and that's how well do we meet those wants and desires? And you can see some of them are pretty apparent in the whole learning to swim programs not being met at all, and that's because we don't have a pool in our town, in our city, and so of course we wouldn't meet that one at all. It's a wide range, there's a lot of material in here to kind of like work through, but I would call out that down in that like youth sports one, we are seeing a lot of meat of that need, right? So that's telling me that the how we support those groups and renting sports fields and leagues is getting somewhat met, right? But then you can clearly see that the learning to swim one's not being met in any way. I
This creates the basis for a lot of decision making.
it does, yeah.
Right, so you can see that is our goal to meet the things that people have identified as, what they want, or there are some things here which we don't provide at all. Do we target funding towards those things that are not provided at all, but maybe aren't so popular or in need of? Or should we be targeting things that people identify as their desires for more of?
Exactly, and one kudos for Nicole, don't know if you noticed this, but in the special events, large festivals, and in free low-cost community special events. A lot of green and a lot of pink, a lot of watermelon colors there, which is you pair those up and that's people feeling satisfied that they're around. And not that there's more need for them.
Okay, thank you for that
No, not that
clarification.
there's not more need, people feel like it's being achieved to some
It's
extent,
being met.
yeah, so just want to call that out.
More, do more.
Yeah, keep going.
What capacity?
Okay. Moving on, which 4 types of programs, activities, and events from this list, and there's a big list, of course. In this question are most important to you, so they ranked all of these from first to fourth. And so you can kind of see the highlights again, it kind of pairs up with what we've seen in the past charts, right? The ones that had the most outliers for want or need, you tended to rank really high in positioning here, so I think this kind of pairs with that, and this again goes to Jeff's comment about how we start to make decisions on what changes we should think about making. And here, man, the questions are so long. Please indicate if anyone in your household or member of your household has a need for the following amenities and facilities listed below, and then please check. This is just another one of those needs assessment, basically. Does anyone in your household need one of these? And there's a whole bunch of them. So you can see the highlights, natural river areas and multi-use paths can have a lot of overlap, of course, and aquatic pool facilities comes up hot. I'm not surprised, it's a big conversation right now. I had a feeling it was gonna show up here, and given the kind of community efforts that have been going on for years, not surprised it's here, and I'm not surprised that access to natural areas, the Snoqualmie River multi-use paths hits high. This community has overwhelmingly said these types of things.
Yeah.
in the past types of parks and open space, check-ins and things like that, surveys, so.
Any questions about cricket? I'm not seeing any cricket questions.
Yeah.
Because I get asked that a lot by different people in the
We
community.
did we specifically identify cricket on there?
No,
So that's not something that we.
it's gonna end up in the, they didn't know what to do with this yet. This is one of the comments that came up, and this is directly taking from the survey material, right? So it's like grabbing survey material, putting it in a chart. This isn't digging through the individual one-off comments that weren't kind of already pre-data fit. That makes sense? So when someone came in and said, hey, I've got a bunch of cool ideas for you, you're gonna start writing them down. Those kinds of feedback still haven't quite made their way over to this yet. And the cricket's one of those examples. There was no checkbox for cricket when we made this.
Okay, I would have liked to have seen that on there just because of the number of times that I've talked with different
And had I thought
about
that
it.
before, I would.
Yeah, anyhow,
Other than cricket though, I think that this chart demonstrates basically what we hear from. And it's pretty well aligned with what we hear.
that's what I was asking Jeff, because this all seems kind of aligned with, the only one that I felt missing that I hear from people is
Cricket.
the
Cricket
cricket,
fields.
which has become an east side and a Washington thing, but also centric to Snoqualmie, which is also, interestingly, there's an economic development element as well.
Yeah.
They come in and they play cricket and they
Cool.
stay and they go as a team and have dinner.
We are
somewhere.
definitely looking
Yeah.
at that, and we're taking it seriously.
Yeah.
We wanna develop it, it's just,
Yeah.
it's not really an easy thing to develop.
It's not, there is some money for it, corporations, Microsoft CEO is interested in doing it, but we don't have the land, that's kind of the
These
problem.
requirements, we might.
Yeah.
We have some options.
But,
You're hearing the inner workings of what we do when we hear cool ideas. This is what goes on.
Yeah, right.
sorry, I've just been,
No, you got it
challenged,
too.
I've been challenged with this question a lot.
We need to evaluate a couple sites for it,
Yeah,
but we do have some ideas.
cool, I think it's addressing a population in our community that needs it for not only their recreation and culture, but I do think there's an economic development element.
Yeah, I think that might fall under this multi-use fields too.
Yes,
Which hit pretty high. There's a couple of these that I would say you would generally think to combine, or like the interests of the people in this questionnaire might be combined, like access to natural areas in Snoqualmie River, boardwalks near wetlands. I think those are pretty similar type things in a lot of ways. Wouldn't necessarily say you combine them and go, ha, this one's way bigger, but that's gonna be a similar thing as someone who's working on pathways near the Snoqualmie River. It turns out there's a lot of wetlands near there too, so,
last comment, the only reason I said cricket too is because disc golf is quite specific.
yeah.
True.
That was and probably less people, I would say, that play disc golf than cricket, so that was the only reason I wondered why that was on there and not cricket, so. I'm done with the cricket.
It's not
bandwagon.
cricket.
I think that the consultant, has done several of these things, and they kind of have their.
Whatever play with the different.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, they kind of have a game plan that they've sorted out from through working other communities.
Yeah.
And
I added things to this list too,
Yeah, I think.
just didn't add that one. It didn't come to my mind when I was coming up with
Nobody had started mentioning
Yeah.
cricket when it first came
I
up.
w- I would argue too that in the greater Pacific Northwest area, there's probably a much bigger number of people who play disc golf than specifically cricket. I would think that Snoqualmie has a lot of cricket players because there's a lot of people from India who come live here.
Right,
That's my
Yeah.
hunch.
I think you're right.
Vast majority of people I went to college with and people my age play disc golf and use it as a hobby.
And there's not a lot of disc golf locations,
Well, there is more, there's more and more of them.
Yeah.
North Bend has
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, there's a good one at South Fork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
right. So we're looking at that too. Unfortunately, disc golf is not an easy thing to,
space heavy,
the space, the amount of space that's required.
just like golf courses as well, they're space heavy. And that's where you see a lot of these golf courses come from, is retired golf courses and South Fork, right? That's the,
Redmond, we had a piece of land that was donated by a family, and it was kind of like, we didn't know what to do with it, and people kind of sort of adopted it, and it turned naturally into a disc golf park, cricket, they've had to convert some of their fields and do some of the striping differently to kind of do multi-use.
yeah, that's kind of worth
Guys, yeah, when they come at us and they give us, what do they need, and then, they want like 8 acres, it's just really hard to find 8 acres. where you can
Exactly.
Carve something out.
Exactly. We just need to be able to donate us some land, right? In the city limits.
Well, there's other partnerships that could possibly be done. There's that trust land down there by Snoqualmie Point Park, maybe
Yeah.
the trust would be interested in doing that, in conjunction with us.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Going down by the stage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Alright, you guys are taking me on too
I
much of
know,
a tangent.
we're out that.
We're moving on.
Works some recreation hats on.
We consider options.
Yeah.
So we're always looking for options and ideas.
This is again related to the kind of pair up of the last question, how well are these being met? And you can see them here and you could guess what the next one's gonna be, it's gonna be related to the ranking. So, again, it's kind of an interesting one for me. When I see this, I see obviously that there's no pool, so you get a lot of not met at all. But then I see multi-use paths, access to natural areas, boardwalks, playground equipment, as being very well met. And that does track with what I've seen in both past examples and this one. And usually that sense of it's being met because you guys are doing a good job keeping it up. So don't stop doing whatever it's been taking to keep up either the parks equipment to the condition it is, or to keep pursuing multi-use paths and riverwalk areas, boardwalks, things of that nature. So yeah, that generally is tracking so far with our past plans as well as this one. I really thought some of these things, based on the way I was getting public feedback, that we were gonna see big, huge landslides on, off-leash dog parks, or something like that. There was a couple I got, bombarded with questions right away. And so it's interesting to see like the data kind of work out over a larger group of people. The next one is gonna be the pair up again, where it's ranking all those by first through fourth on which facilities do we wanna see the most based on the feedback we got. So pool hit high, multi-use paths hit high again, and disc golf, of
I was
course.
just gonna say disc golf tonight.
Hit high, so
Just golf lobby.
yeah, and again, the off-leash dog park came in high too. Pickleball courts, that's another, not a shocker for me, I've been hearing a lot about pickleball courts.
Yeah.
I guess what I've been saying is. I live in the community and I've been hearing a lot of these things, this data does not go in a totally. Tangent direction from what I've been hearing over the course of the years that I've been working here as things have changed. So I feel like we can feel pretty confident that we didn't have some sort of data error or something of that nature. And so now it's to kind of like look at the data and see, what direction do we want to take it in. Here the next one, have you visited or used any parks? I think this is kind of a gimme question. But yeah, a lot of people in the area have used our parks and facilities in the last year. What are the reasons that you might have not utilized any parks facilities? A lot of people just said, nothing, yada yada, we don't, we do, it's fine. But then if you look through some of the higher answers, we see things like, I'm too busy, that's a pretty common one. But I think that I use facilities in other communities and is an interesting one, and I'd like to dive deeper with a consultant. I've asked them to verify the data and see if there's a specific type of thing that's being facilitated in another community. For example, is a disc golf course in North Bend satisfying the need for a disc golf course here because it's close enough and citizens are using it in another community, for example? That's one. And then, yeah. A lot of this kind of overlaps, in my opinion, lack of adequate facilities that meet my needs. Kind of an interesting answer, and so is other, I think that's basically the same as the top one here, but. Yeah, I don't want to read too much more into the whys of this, I'll kind of leave that up to you all to interpret for yourself. And then here's just an age breakdown of the respondents. Again, doesn't super surprise me, it's not perfect to our demographics technically. We're missing some of the older years, technically we should have more in there, but this isn't
We're a
super,
young community.
yeah.
Very young community, we don't have a lot of senior options or senior
No.
housing.
But statistically, I think we have more people in the 65 through 75 than are shown here. Not a lot more, but Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm actually amazed at how many 5 to 9-year-olds took this survey.
Yeah.
37 5 to 9-year-olds and 21 under 5-year-olds took this.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah,
those like?
incredible.
I was like, yeah.
The multicolored tablets with like frog shapes on it. Just clicking through the survey.
You gotta take the survey.
Exactly. So,
Bo took it, Emily, right? You had Bo
Yep.
take it.
Yep, it stuck the pen in there, Bo's just scrolling.
He was daubing.
Well, what I found is that some of my neighbors who took this survey, it was like a family gathering kind of thing, and they were valuing the input of their kids in a lot of this.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's great. I don't have any qualms with it. I think it's actually kind of a fun detail.
Well, it's
It shows that there's. You know, obviously that it shows that the parents are thinking about their kids.
right, they took it as a family unit and yeah.
Yeah, that's why a lot of the questions were phrased as do you or anyone in your household. In this case, this is representing that someone in the household is thinking about their 3-year-old in this
Child's
case
voice.
for.
Yeah.
For how parks and open spaces get used, so. Yeah, I think that's a good example of it. And that is the example that I have right now. There's both a lot and a familiar amount of data here. Is leading with this, do you have any questions for me on things I can ask the consultant to look into further? I know that I just gave it to you, you have no time to think on it and to, you know, breathe into it, your own opinions and thoughts rather than just hearing my nonsense. But if you have any comments, I'm happy to kind of get in touch with them and see if they can extrapolate or explain some things. So I'm open to that. But I'm also planning to send this to you all after this meeting. You can take a look at it then. I ask that you keep in mind, it is drafted. And so I'm gonna make changes to this as I kind of drill down with the consultant on how I think that they're wording things. Of that nature, but not radically changing the data, so to speak, just rather. Can you wordsmith this sentence so it makes sense to me, or in the inventory, I'm gonna have some corrections for them on just, I think it's minor inaccuracies like I mentioned earlier, so things like that, so just keep in mind that what I give you. Will change both from your feedback and from mine. And just wanna make that clear. But yeah, and then I do have one more cool map and chart, so if you wanted to think on that for a few more seconds. I'm happy to show you in my last document here. Oh, I didn't need to close my screen here, sorry. Okay, maybe I just. There we go. Okay.
You turn your.
You gotta turn your thing off.
Yep, I got it. Scared me, I was like, who's copying me? This last one is a product that kind of came out of some conversations with community development. And how to achieve a walkable city with access to both green spaces, open spaces, and park facilities. This is a state law requirement that is that we're gonna capture in the Parks Recreation Open Space Plan. Rather than in some sort of environmental chapter of the comp plan at large. We have a consultant that could do the work, and so this is kind of the product that has them with, you'll see more of this later. I just wanna give you a sneak peek of part of what I think you might see as some of the decision making. And so what I thought is you should know that I have been looking at geographically spacing things. So when we think about dog parks, for instance, we have one dog park. I know where it's located, I mean, we all probably know where it's located, but that brings into question of how do we wanna, you know, divide up and space our facilities and equipment. And so that's kind of what this map is starting to look like for me. This is really just capturing that walkability. It's really, this map is showcasing that the city got really lucky in a sense in that all the development happened under a master development plan, which took into consideration walkability and access to parks and open spaces. This is not true in every city. If you move to another place, you might feel that you are a lot further from a park than you will experience in this town. And I'm sure a lot of us that grew up in different places know that feeling. So this shows that we have really good walkability. And it will continue for the future. But when I'm looking at this map, it's making me think about those ranked priorities and what we want to see more of. And that maybe what they're trying to say is not that we don't have any of it, but there needs to be in different places. And that's gonna be a bit of a harder lift to get from a survey, and something that I think you all should be thinking about, how does that pair together? So, I'm not saying like we need 15 disc golf courses and help me identify the spots, that's not what I mean, but. You know, we need more facilities and infrastructure, we maybe need to change some, and the geographic layout is gonna be a big part of that. And I think that's a good way of thinking about the next recommendations that you all might wanna make for changes to the Parks Recreation Open Space Plan into the pros plan. So I've been talking a lot and I've shown you a lot. I'll take a pause and I can go to anything you want. I'm here to answer questions, here to send you things, here to take feedback, all that.
I have a thought. Thanks for conveying all that information. I'm really curious to see how that develops and where it goes. In your assessment or in your work here of all these areas that the consultant has covered, is there anything that are there any holes or gaps you may have identified where we might be able to give you some help or some feedback? And I'm not saying that to be critical or anything, but hindsight's 2020, and sometimes in the past when I've worked on surveys and done work similar to this or been part of a project like this, you know, we've looked at each other around a meeting table late in the project and gone, oh, we didn't think of that. And so that would be my question is there anything to that effect where we might be able to be of help?
Yeah, so my instinct at first is to say, don't let me push you too far on how you wanna feel, I kinda want you to take your read at this first. I do have things in here, and Jeff, we were just talking about some of that basically. We've heard from the public what they want, and we've thought about how to implement it, and we can kind of go straight to that path. And so I do that a lot, and a lot of what this meeting is not for me to tell you. I will eventually get to that, so don't worry. But I kind of want to just let you guys tell me what you think first. And so know that later on, I will have a bunch of opinions on, here's some suggestions, some small changes, because I think that's really what we're talking about, we're not talking about, you know, gutting half the city parks and turn them into something else or something like that, right? But here's some changes that would kind of reflect the wants and needs that survey indicated. I have a couple of those in my head right now, I'm positive that the staff in here do too. And so we'll kind of bring that paired up a little bit. I know that's kind of like deflecting, Paul, and I'm sorry about that, but I think that's my preference. I know that's lame, but.
Well, I also think that no matter how much work ever we put into this, there's still gonna be things that we just didn't think about.
Yeah.
Right? That happens, I think, in every plan. I've never seen a plan where something doesn't pop up a year or two later, we're like, oh. We never saw that coming, you never could have thought about that, so.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we're trying to be perfect here, we're trying to maximize or optimize our efforts for the greater good of our citizens.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely, but if I were to give you some highlights on the ways to think about this. It would be to reiterate a couple things, which are geographic locations and positions of things. So if there's a frequency of certain types of equipment in only some areas, and it's not geographically dispersed appropriately, I'm thinking of things like that. I'm thinking of wants and needs that can be easily fulfilled in existing spaces owned by the city. And how we can make a small but very impactful transition from one use to another. And I'm thinking of big wants and how they pair up to projects that the city is either going after right now, working on as we speak, so to speak, and have identified as future projects in the next 5 to 20 years. And so I'm trying to make sure that between all three of those, I'm thinking of how we might achieve all those wants and needs of citizens in the comments that we've gotten in this material. And you might have heard as, you know, commissioners out about the city.
And I would add, if there's anything that we've missed, you know, getting back to Paul's point, if you can think of something that you think we've missed, you know, that should be on here, that we just haven't specifically identified. Right? I mean, I could use like mountain biking. Up at Snoqualmie Point Park, from what I understand, is like one of the best mountain bike tracks in the whole Northwest, is right here in our backyard.
Mhm.
And it's not really showing up on the pros plan. And it's maybe because our consultant wasn't aware of it, or we didn't tell him, or I wasn't even aware of it until just like a few weeks ago, so.
It did show up,
Okay.
Yeah, there was
so,
some.
Yeah.
But if there's other things in there, if there's other things that you can think of that you think that we just have underrepresented or just missed altogether.
it's in here, but yeah, that's goes to show there's kind of a lot of data kind of kicking around in here.
You mean besides the cricket fields?
Besides the cricket field.
And the frisbee golf, yeah,
Yep,
all right, this is disc golf.
get the terms right.
Yes, right, frisbee.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my presentation. Again, you always have my email, so you don't have to get back to me right in this meeting. And you'll see stuff from me here shortly. If you have cool ideas that I missed right away and that could be captured quickly, or something, quick comments, please get to them quickly. You don't have to wait to the next meeting where I'm sitting in this space. I can kind of take quick comments and I can work fast, but you know, we're gonna start looking at. And I've already started this, but this is all that groundwork materials, right, for what changes we make to our existing plan. To showcase those changes, and so we're starting to look at what does our existing plan look like? How are sentences structured, what are the goals and objectives and that previous plan, and we're starting to think about how they convert over to a modern plan. Looking at how the other comp plan elements are showcased and things like that, so that's what I'm up to, and that's what I will be up to. Until the next time we meet, yeah, that's my shtick.
No, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Does this help you in looking at Snoqualmie Community Park and kind of the future of what all of that will look like?
Yeah, so it does and doesn't.
To some degree it does.
I knew a lot of this already because of other surveys that the community center has almost kicked off, including. And so the community center is changing that landscape in that area, right? And it will impact some of these other things, other courts, the basketball courts and the tennis courts and the splash pad going in. Is gonna change an amenity imbalance that's called out in this here, right? So I know about it. I would say that in a lot of ways, these two don't seem very dissimilar. The feedback I got from the community center kind of reflects what I'm seeing here. Generally speaking, so it's not like they're kind of in alignment. I didn't see any big discrepancies, and so no, I'm kind of like they're paired well in a nice way. It does make me think that we'll have a community center and we will need to address courts and making sure that we maintain the, you know, the facilities that we have, because clearly that's one of the big bonuses this community sees. Is that we have access to these kinds of courts and facilities, and to lose them for something else would probably not be ideal. So that's part of the packaging, but that's all wrapped up in the bigger community center conversation.
Yeah, community park is so much, there's so much the center of activity.
Yeah.
That you can't change anything without impacting somebody, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be careful about what we do there. Clearly, you know, building a splash pad and removing a basketball court.
Next topic.
Some
yeah.
people are gonna, some people, but, you know, we're trying to find the optimized solution, so who benefits the most from which activities and, you know. And somebody's gotta make those decisions. It's not always us either, frankly.
And can we find alternative locations that
Yeah.
meet the needs?
Right.
And that's sometimes a bigger ask than you think, but yeah. And it probably didn't answer your question, but yeah.
No, I'm sure it all helps though.
Yeah, more data, more confidence to kind of make recommendations based on what we've been hearing. Rather than just getting emails from someone saying like, I want more cricket, and Nicole telling me that.
Right.
I have a
You want
native
a dog
feed that has hundreds of people that took their time to make comments, and they said these.
Some people wanted a dog park, there were some others
You
who
want a
spoke
mini dog
very
park.
loudly, they didn't want a dog park.
Any dog.
And they let me know it. Loud and clear.
Okay, well, I'm gonna wrap up and let you go unless you have any questions for me.
Dylan, I just want to say that wasn't our last meeting that you were like, I don't think I'll have any information for you guys that's new at next month's meeting. And then here you are with all of this great info. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And then is it helpful for you when you're asking our opinion on things to come with like specifics to be like, hey, would this be a good spot for something like that dog park that keeps getting
Absolutely.
brought up? Or what about doing something with this particular park? Do you want it to be that detailed?
You can do that. It's sometimes there's a lot of feasibility that has to go into actually gut checking those things.
Yeah.
But I think you should let your passions kind of guide you, and if that's where it's taking you, then I think that's the purpose of.
Yeah, don't
Okay.
get married to your ideas, I'd say.
Right, yeah,
Because, you know,
Okay.
we wanna hear your ideas, but we also have hired experts to help us. With the analysis
Yeah.
on things like citing, right, and weighing decisions. And we're likely gonna go with their recommendations as long as they suit the needs of the city, but we do wanna hear your input. And we also want you to be involved with recommendations for decision making, of course.
yeah, cause I think part of the plan could be to discuss like this park becomes this. The pros plan can say that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So as long as it's feasible, which again, we will have to dictate later probably. But those kinds of recommendations and goals can be set in this kind of parks, this pros plan update, so feel free to go there, just know that we'll kind of have to. Hash it out a little bit, and Jeff and I, as people who have built things, and you know, gotten frustrated with that kind of stuff, will kind of weigh in and help us. You know, figure out what's the most viable, and hopefully that gives us a good answer at the end, but please, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Okay.
Emily, you muted
Well then,
yourself.
I know. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. It was just saying that Jeff's looking at me and his watch. Here we go. Next, basketball
Have a
court.
watch.
Basketball
He
court
knows you that.
relocation. This came up from a commissioner, rightfully so. I think just we would like an update on whether there's any change or thought on specifically for where the splash pad is being put in and that basketball court is being relocated, if there's any information to share with that, or if it's still kind of up in the air.
I can give you kind of an update right now. So we were kind of thinking about, all right, if we're, you know, displace the splash pad and displace the tennis courts, are we, not splash pad, the basketball court and the tennis courts, are we going to find alternative locations? And if so, where? Tennis courts, we think yes, because the tennis courts do get quite a bit of activity. And we do have a place to put the tennis courts. The basketball court, however, we have a lot of basketball courts. And we don't see the basketball court necessarily as being something that gets tons of activity. It's usually just empty, or kids, you know, rolling the ball around on it or something, but it doesn't get a lot of activity. So we kind of feel like we have enough basketball courts in the neighborhood, not too far from community center. So at this point, I don't know that we are considering replacing the basketball court. The tennis courts, however, we are looking at siting options. We have Carmichael Park, which is already has tennis courts over there, and there is room to expand. So we're thinking about adding more tennis courts at Carmichael. And we may try to fit in another tennis court or two in some alternative locations.
In a community center, in the,
Maybe at the community center, yeah.
I'm sorry, in the community park, not in the building.
Right, at the community park, right, if we can, I mean, there's not a lot of space, it looks like there's a lot of space there, but when you throw in a tennis court or, you know, a set of pickleball courts. It uses up a lot more space than you think, and that might impinge on some other activities, which, you know, the city also feels are valuable.
You know, drainage,
There's drainage issues.
that's a big one.
The costs, and then of course, you know, all of these facilities, there is a maintenance component. Right, so we have to weigh that in as well. So there's the capital cost of building it. And then there is the long-term cost of maintaining it. Sports courts take a fair bit of maintenance. They have to be painted, they have to be cleaned every year. They have to be painted. There's fencing that needs to be maintained. If there's, nets or netting, that has to be replaced or, maintained on a schedule. So, it kind of is a cost benefit analysis to some degree for a lot of that. Basketball courts, not so much, but we have a lot of basketball courts and they're not used.
Jeff, can you, I'm just blanking on where some of the other basketball courts would be off the top, but are they school adjacent? And I am assuming you're not talking about the pop-up hoops that are in the alleys that individual homeowners put up.
No, we have
No, we're counting those, yeah.
Yeah,
we have
recreation right there.
we have a full
Right.
court just down the street at, what's that, Fisher Park?
Yeah, Fisher Park has 2.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
full
that's
court.
right. Okay.
Right, and then we have, I think,
We have
Oh.
6 non-lighted basketball courts and 1 lighted basketball court, according to.
yeah, Stellar has a basketball court. I mean, there's a bunch of half courts, but I mean, how many full-size basketball courts do we don't use them? They get more use as pickleball courts. Cause we painted pickleball lines on them, so people go out and set up their pickleball.
As they say, we don't technically have any pickleball courts. It's one of the nice things about the inventory, just a
Yeah.
quick list of how many things. we have.
Well, we've been painting the lines, pickleball court lines on
Tennis courts.
tennis courts and basketball courts, so.
Which was
Well,
5.
what was the,
Riverview has a basketball court too.
what was the, what's the word I'm gonna call- when we fenced the basketball court, it was fenced for probably a week or so before we started to do things. Did
Little
we
more.
hear did our phone lines just blow up?
Love, no, I got some comments saying, why'd you put fencing up if you haven't even started demo yet? And then like a few days later, like, never mind, I see there's a bunch of.
I mean, there was this line up there notifying the splash park, but
Yeah.
I just, you know,
Somebody
when you
thought
do
we were
something
blocking out
like
the
that.
bathroom, but they hadn't actually gone over there to see that we didn't block the bathroom, so.
Yeah.
There was, some comments, but
I mean, we've done a fairly decent, we've done a very good job of communicating the splash pad is coming and where it's going, so it's probably they were, shocked by it, but it's also telling if your phones weren't blowing up, your email boxes weren't blowing up, people, how dare you, how could you, that tells a story too.
I did get a question before the splash pad were to deconstruct the area, if the hoops would, be maintained. The answer was, we're about to demolish them, so we don't need to retain these hoops or whatever, but I didn't get as many comments as I typically get when we put up construction
Yeah.
fencing. So there's a lot of questions.
So there were, I think, when we got involved, we can read what's happening on Facebook and the comments about that. And that's where there was a lot of discussion about it and questions about where the closest basketball court is. Is there any possibility, is this reaching to put up a sign that directs people to, like the fact that there's a full court
Yeah, we could
basketball
do that.
court at Fisher Park?
it wouldn't hurt. We could put it on that information sign with the.
Yeah.
Or for the splash pad.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
with like a QR code or something, that people can just be directed to see what other options there might be.
Basketball
It's
court,
not a bad
alternative locations, got it. I love QR codes.
And then it could just, talking about the construction that's going on, I don't know how long it's going to be going on, but potential blocking of that YMCA parking lot, but parents doing drop-offs or pickups
This
with their
morning,
kids. Yeah.
At the school, you mean?
Was there,
Yeah.
At
was
the
there
school.
comments on social media, Emily? Okay, well.
I got phone calls, so there's
Well,
no comments.
And Ryan
And
and
the-
Jeff knows this, Ryan called me first thing this morning, Mike and I were up there and we saw it, and Ryan was like, we need to put something out, and so I'll take the blame on that one, I said. There's probably no point of us putting something out now, cause parents are getting ready to send their kids, I asked for traffic to go there, but. In hindsight, maybe some sort of a social media post of this is what's happening, although it was open, it's like there is one lane. But when you take something normal away from people, they lose their minds, right? So they can still get to it. Or geez, now I'm gonna be like a finger waggler, God forbid, just drop your kid off and
yeah.
have them walk.
I mean,
I
I think we need to revisit the use of that parking lot as a drop off for kids at the school.
I think that comment was made that this actually isn't the official drop-off point.
That's right.
Hey,
It's
parents, it's
not,
back behind
Emily.
Douglas.
I thought I had heard that we did have an agreement with the school or the district that.
We allow it.
I don't know there's any agreement that I'm aware of.
I'm just saying, there was a time where I'd heard that was, so I don't know. Or it just became parents did it and it just became.
I think it's like a centennial,
norm.
where
norm.
parents do it at centennial, but that's not actually made for that.
During construction, we're blocking that off, so they're not gonna be able to, if the community part moves forward.
I
Use it,
understand,
Yeah.
I understand,
And then.
Yeah.
And then I think when we get back to, full operation, I think we're gonna try to discourage. that,
Yeah.
Because we're expecting more parking and we just don't need to be routing traffic through there on a
no,
consistent
but
basis.
to Emily's point and having a mom and getting kids through school, like. Creatures of habit think it happens, like, it is big, like, we would have to at least address it in the messaging and get ahead of it because.
Mhm.
Their lives are planned around it, and sometimes the schools aren't unfortunately adequate.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for these alternatives, but.
This kind of thing will be hard, like,
Mhm.
equipment manufacturers are not the best at telling us when there's 3 semi trucks full of equipment showing up right at site.
Yeah.
On a
Um,
Monday
and
morning.
this is a good example of it, but it's happened at several projects. I don't know what is going on sometimes with the world of supply chain stuff. But sometimes a truck just shows up and asks you why there's not anyone there to unload this right now.
Mm,
And that's a bit of the pickle we found ourselves in.
right, right. Well, usually it's us saying, did you talk to your contractor?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Emily, just real quick, I'm curious whether they were just mad that it was happening or that they didn't know about it, or that it was just not the way that it is every other day of the week, that they only had one lane.
I think if I remember, it just said they didn't know about it and that it was happening this morning and they had to drop their kid off to have their kid walk. And then the point was made, well, hey, that's actually not an official drop off. And then another point was made that I think this is probably just today because they're clearly dropping something off and that's not going to be happening regularly. So all the points you guys just talked about were all covered, but I
Okay.
never think it hurts to get ahead,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
Or to
Yeah.
I
give
agree.
kind of a heads up. Even at this point, just to say, hey, isn't it exciting? The construction has started on the splash pad. Anticipate that there might be some
There are
mornings
gonna be some
where,
intermittent,
Yeah.
intermittently down to one lane or something at times, yeah. Okay,
I'll
You should
get
probably
something going on
down.
this, yeah. I'll CC you everyone.
okay,
Managing expectations.
yes, Paul.
Yep.
okay,
Fu-
is that it for basketball court relocation? Sorry, Paul, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, that's fine. I had nothing meaningful to say.
Next up on our agenda is a community center expansion update.
Yes. So. We met with our consultant, our funding gap was still too large. And so there's a lot of meetings going on, internal meetings between Public Works, Finance, Executive Branch. And we met with the consultant and we are going to break the project into phases, which are a little bit more manageable as far as funding. Our funding picture has become a little bit clearer in that we don't have enough funding. So that we have essentially removed some of the improvements to the community center, the dry side fitness areas. We're going to hold off and make that a second phase. Some of the other grounds improvements, we managed to scrape about $4 million out of the budget by going with this phasing approach, so that we've got our funding gap down to something we think is a little bit more manageable. We're still working on that. The finance is trying to develop in tandem with us with our capital improvements program to develop a funding strategy, and we'll know more here in about a month as far as whether or not we're gonna have something that's reasonable, and then it has to go to council for approval. And that would probably be in the June-ish timeframe. So that's where we're at.
Okay, dare I ask, when you say into phases, what does that mean?
So
What
two
type of
phases.
phases?
First phase would be the pool. So the pool and the improvements around the pool, so that portion where the tennis courts are now, that will be the pool area. And so it's a pool, it's a community room, it's a new reception area, and it's kind of this community living room portion. And then some minor improvements to the interior, because the main entrance will be moving to the new building. And so the old reception area will actually kind of be reworked to make that into more fitness area. And so the YMCA will pick up a little bit more fitness space. But they still won't get their two big studios, the fitness studios that, you know, we were planning to build. We just don't, you know, we can remove a couple $1 million by getting rid of that portion of it. So that would all be part of phase 2. And then there's a walkway which comes down from the building. You know, we're gonna remove that from the project. We think we can do that in-house with our own maintenance budget.
We'll walk from the building down to Ridge.
Down Ridge Street, yeah. Yep. So
Okay.
it was a necessary, unfortunate necessary item that we had to do in order to kind of make a gap that we can reasonably approach for funding.
Okay, thanks. Anybody have any questions or comments about that?
I'm good. No questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, last thing on our official agenda is the Commissioner Handbook and Snoqualmie Municipal Code updates.
You know, I think that's.
Dina?
I don't know if it's on the agenda.
Oh,
This-
we have the. We should, like I don't know if it's a handbook.
So I went to council, committee last go round, and then it went to the council meeting, this last time, which was the 8th. Just to get, so council doesn't want to officially adopt the handbook, but they do, we gave them an opportunity to provide feedback. So, I don't know if the mayor's received feedback or not. I have not received any feedback. So it will be just adopted administratively like it was
Right.
previously. And then the updates are going to the next council meeting, which is Monday, the 22nd on second reading. So we have first reading on the 8th and second reading will be on the 22nd, and that's encompassing all of the boards and commissions, updates for all of them.
And they can
Eliminating
find
2 of
those, they can find those updates. We talked about, where were those updates?
And the April 8th, city council agenda packet.
Agenda packet, okay. So you guys know how to do that? So on the city website, you can actually look up all the agenda packets. So if you look at the next council meeting, the agenda packet for that, all of that information is there.
So we'd be looking at the one coming up or the previous one to look at the changes? Were the changes made during the meeting, or it's just, hey, this is what we're anticipating for the next one?
What we're anticipating for the next one. So the next city council meeting is next Monday.
Okay.
So if you pull up that agenda and you can, you know, look through the agenda and you'll find it. And then I don't know if there's a link to it. Usually there's a link where you can click it and go right to the document.
So the handbook is not in the next, the upcoming packet, and that will be in the April 8th packet. But the code updates will be in the upcoming packet on the 22nd, but it's not posted yet, right? Because
Right.
FNA has to approve it tomorrow.
Right.
So Thursday after 5 p.m. it will be posted.
Did you get that? After Thursday after 5 p.m.
Yep. Okay. Did either of the other commissioners want to speak up to this kind of point, and anything related to the handbook or code changes?
No.
I don't
Okay.
have any this time.
Okay, I know we hit upon some of it at least earlier. So that brings us to Nicole's nuggets.
You're very sweet.
Is that right?
Yeah, but I don't think I have a report. My brain's kind of fried right now.
You have no nuggets?
I have no nuggets.
All out.
I'm all
Nugget
out of
list.
nuggets. Yeah, unless you guys can trigger cue me on anything.
Easter egg hunts?
Yeah, Easter egg hunts went well.
Those went well. Yeah,
We talked about them, I think.
Did
No, we
talk
didn't.
about that
No, we
last
didn't.
time?
No.
Okay, so they went really well. We moved the teen one up to Jeannie Hampson. And we went from probably 75 kids to 300 kids.
Wow.
And they were literally gone in less than a minute. That is not a joke. A boy came up at 3 minutes and we're like, we got nothing.
You're late, kid.
You're like so late, like you're out of here. So I think that park worked really well. We liked it. I think we'll do that again. And then the daytime hunt was beautiful weather. Mother Nature just helped us. That was probably, I don't know, 600, 700 kids. Emily was there with her little boy. That night, the day before, Dylan and the parks team had worked so hard to get the inclusive park open. And it was a mob scene. It was just unbelievable. It was great. I mean, it was such a great kind of official, unofficial soft opening. And then a lot of the families went to the downtown hunt. So they had a good day in sales, I think contributed to the egg hunt. So yeah, it was a good weekend.
It's a barn burner.
It was a barn burner and, I don't know. Sorry, yesterday was a long day and today was a long day with, the fire downtown.
Upcoming
I-
events, we have a big one next week.
I do.
Volunteer.
You're amazing, Tina. Thank you so
We
very
have a-
much. I said cue me for my nuggets. If you received an invite to the volunteer
You
appreciation,
all should have received one.
are they? Cause they all served a year. I'm so bad right now. I'm tired. So, okay, would love to see you guys next week at the volunteer event. And then also, it's a very busy week next week with that. And then we have Friday, the official ribbon cutting for the, all inclusive, and I need to send that to you guys. It's next Friday at 4 o'clock. Would love to have you there. And
Probably.
That continue.
what was that?
For
Did you
the
say,
minutes?
is it ready? It's gotta be ready.
Yeah, great.
It's gotta be ready.
It's just concrete now, so.
Yeah.
Well, that was something. I was
Today,
gonna
we
ask.
know,
Yeah.
ribbon cutting next week.
That was something I was gonna ask you in the meeting today, but then I thought you knew the date, so I thought no matter what. we would
I
have
think
it
my
done.
answer was, I'm pretty sure it is, but let me check.
I'm going for it.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
I mean.
Yeah.
we're
I think
going-
we gotta whip the contractor a little bit, but I think we'll get there.
Yeah. So anyhow, next Friday, 4 o'clock, be there, be square.
Also,
Yeah.
we have a couple, Earth Day.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, thank you. Do you have all
Arbor
those
Day?
details?
Yeah, that's on the 22nd up at Community Park. It's a tree planting event. And then there's Arbor Day event on the 27th, which is also, I think,
Yeah.
at Community Park, which is another tree planting. And I think it's tree planting.
It's always a very busy week and then we threw in a ribbon cutting on top of it, so.
And then we have like Big Truck Day coming up.
Big Truck Day will be in June, so we can catch our breath on the
Big truck.
Big Truck Day. Really
So,
good.
sorry, the ribbon cutting for Centennial Park is on the 26th.
On Friday, the 26th at 4
Okay,
p.m.
at 4.
Yeah, and you other commissioners, show up to that recognition event. Don't leave me hanging this time.
Aw, thanks, Paul.
Of course,
Yeah.
I have to ask, I think I'm a single parent that night. Can family
can
and
bring 'em,
children
yeah.
come?
Yeah,
Okay.
kids are fine. Yeah, I don't
And
really
just-
have kids entertainment or
Yeah.
sippy cups, but yeah, he's more than welcome.
And the
Mike
high-
gives out little gifts.
What was that?
Mike gives out little gifts.
Yeah.
Who
And-
knew?
Yeah, and the ice cream guy will be there. I'll have the ice cream
There you go.
trike there, so.
Yeah, that's a hit.
Okay, well, great. Thanks for that. You always have such nice things to report, and there are a lot of things coming up. Always. Okay, guys, for future discussion, items of commissioner interest. One thing that I think was missed from this month's meeting agenda, sorry, I'm getting tired, is the train museum. Do we want to put that on for our next meeting, whether that's in May or June?
Which one are we talking
Model
about?
Model
Uh,
train museum.
I would say maybe
Not
that
yet.
could be a June or a July.
I'd hold off.
Yeah, we need to punt that. It's
Okay.
still an active project, but we need to,
There's some decisions that need to be made that
Yeah.
have not been made yet, and we don't wanna complicate that issue
Yeah.
anymore right now, so.
yes.
So, yeah, sounds good. We don't need to be involved if it's not appropriate for us to be at this point, so we could wait on that one.
Soon.
Yes.
That brings me then to my my next question, maybe before we talk about specific agenda items for our next meeting, is when our next meeting will be. Because as I stated, as of now, we do not have quorum for a May meeting. One commissioner is going to be absent. So should we go ahead and schedule our next meeting for June? Or Dina, do you think that the turnaround, if somebody applies tomorrow to be on this commission, could happen that quickly?
I would do
What
June.
is the status
I would
of-
do June.
I mean, even if somebody applied tonight, I don't know that it would be able to get before
Yeah.
council, before the May meeting. I mean, it might, I don't know.
Okay, so then sounds like that we have to have it in June. If we don't have enough commissioners there, then we'll have it in June, which I think is fine. We've
Which would
been
be June 17th.
Sure.
okay, June 17th. Okay, and then what are some specific things, commissioners, that you would like discussed at this meeting? If you know of any off the top of your head, no pressure. We can always come up with things. We've got some time now before June 17th.
I can't think of anything off the top.
Okay. What about you, Scott?
None at this point.
Okay, great. We will leave it as is, but I'm sure as always, we will think of some things. It sounds like our focus will be on the work that Mike asked us to do. So why don't we include that actually as an agenda item? I don't know how to phrase it, but considerations for
Say
upcoming,
again.
what's that?
Say again what that was?
With the start of the meeting, under Parks and Events Commission discussion, what Mike Chambliss tasked us with.
Oh,
Right.
right.
Yep, as far
Okay.
as looking at the wording and updating it a bit from 1970,
Right.
right? Finding our balance and our purpose for kind of the role of PAC.
Should we think of that as a working discussion? Because that's where we sort of bring our own ideas or thoughts or insights to figure out what directions we go in with it.
That's what it's,
That's my view.
Yep, that's what it sounds like. So
Yeah.
spending some time individually looking at it, maybe meeting with Mike, and then coming ready to talk about it in June as a team, as a group.
Right.
I would say, think of it as developing a charter, right? What is our purpose? What is our function?
Okay, so that'll be our standalone agenda item for now for June, but we'll most likely have more than that. And then with that, are we ready to adjourn? So everybody who got up at 4 or 4:30 or 4:45 can go home and get some sleep.
Thank you for tracking that.
Okay, so there being no further business to come before the commission, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
All
adjourn.
to adjourn
I
and
second.
Great. Both commissioners are making a motion and both are seconding it.
we don't have to pitch a tent tonight.
Okay, thanks everyone. See you in a couple months.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
Emily.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you.
All right. Bye.